Hi everyone, welcome to our new stream 34. I was away for a while, so we're going to see how many join us on a Tuesday, which is not our regular day for streaming. Hello Rubbish Cans, it's nice to see you. So we'll give everyone 5 minutes to get into the chat. My voice is still not what it's supposed to be, but I'm guessing we'll get through it together. How has your week been, Rubbish Cans? How are you doing? It's raining over here, which is nice. I've got a window open, like right up there. So I'm hoping it'll be slightly less warm in here in a second. Your week was good. You got summer vacation. Oh, that's lovely. Apple juice. Hello, good evening. And I am at the other side. Nice to see you again. How are you doing? Is it raining there as well? Because it is, I think it's going to storm later tonight, which is nice. Also, this evening we are going to learn what lemmings and storms have to do with each other. It feels like a sauna in here. Yes, same here. Sedarian, clear sign of changing climate. Dutch people happy with the rain. Yes, I think that might be like the news article for today. Your lawn is so dead. I can imagine, apple juice. We've been spraying our garden. We've been watering the plants because otherwise they would die. Hello, I am a fan of the cat lady. Hey, B-boy. It's nice to see you again. Oh, that's so nice to see you. It's been a while. How have you been? How's it over there? It's really hot here. Good evening, Dominique. Our one and only Quizmaster Queen. Oh, we're going to have another quiz in a bit, by the way. I think we're at stream 34 today. So next stream, in stream 35, we're going to start building towards a new quiz again. B-boy, you're good. It's raining in Amsterdam. Must be nice, right? Because I'm guessing the streets can get pretty dirty in Amsterdam if it doesn't rain for a while with all of those people. You want like a good rain to like clear that. Did you know that specific smell that you get when it rains, where you can like smell like wet grass and wet earth, it's a very specific thing that humans are so good at smelling. We are better at smelling this smell than sharks are at smelling blood. And this might have something to do with the fact that throughout human evolution, you wanted to be able to smell if soil was nice and fertile for you to be able to plant. So that really specific smell that you get after it rains, you're hardwired to smell that. Extra bonus fact. Hey, I'm Trickster. Nice. Nice to see you. Hello. Oh my goodness. 28 in your apartment, B-boy, that is too hot. Rain and free fact. Aren't that the bacteria that you smell after rain? Yes, I think it's called picor. I'm kind of blanking on the specific name that it has. Petrichor. I think it's called the petrichor smell. And yes, I do think that has something to do with the bacteria that are active after rain. And that means that the soil is super fertile. And we like fertile soil. Petrichor. Yes. That came from, you know, when an idea comes from deep in your brain. Oh my goodness, I'm sticky. I just did my arms like that and they are literally sticking together. But you can't tell on the screen. I just look glowy, not sweaty and sticky, which is in fact the case. So also, you can remember to use your points for extra facts or to make me drink. Hydrate. Or you can save up all of your facts to see if Dominique is going to be our next quiz queen. Right on the money there, B-boy. Also, I'm hoping that my voice gets better because I think I sound slightly more like a 40-year-old lady. I must save has to refrain from hydrate. You'll become quiz queen squared. Dominique, you might. And also, I have been putting all of our streams up on YouTube, so you can always watch them back. Wait, I'm not 40 yet? No, not yet. I'm going to turn 32 like really soon in July. So I am almost a 32-year-old lady. And I don't know if you can tell in the screen, but this lady has like grey hairs in here. You can't tell. So yeah. But at least my voice matches my age now. I should go study up. Haven't seen the last 2 streams. Oh, yeah. Were you too busy with schoolwork? I can imagine. But you can always watch them back. You're going to have to study for the quiz. Besides all of your schoolwork. Well, it's general knowledge. And I heard that the link wasn't working. So I'll work on making sure that the link on YouTube, the link from my Twitch to my YouTube works correctly, because somehow something might not be linking between there, but I will get it fixed. Got summer vacation, all the time to study, good. So we'll start saving points for that next stream with stream 35, and I think that's 5 minutes, so I think we'll start. So, welcome everyone, my name is Renee, and in this stream I am going to share with you the interesting facts that I have found throughout the week. This week we are going to be talking about mad mushrooms, the black dinner, and other facts. And with that we are going to open our presentation. There we go. So, today we are going to start as always with our missed shots and then onto our animals of the week, because we could not choose last time, which today are going to be the lemming and the ladybug. Then we're going to be talking about devious dictators and their tactics. Then onto mad mushrooms. Oh, and our story of the week, I see that I did not change that. That is going to be the black dinner. Then onto facts tennis, and as our wholesome fact, we're going to be talking about happy babies. While I'm sharing my facts, please feel free to share any interesting facts that you have or any comments in the chat. After we've read a couple of facts, I'm going to go back to the chat and read out a couple of comments. First, our missed chats. This week we're going to be talking about the gadfly and apples. First, the gadfly. So, first of all, the gadfly is not in fact its official name. It is actually called the horsefly. It is nicknamed the gadfly, one, because of the shape of its mouth, and you can see in the picture, that side next to me, you can see that its mouth has a little triangle shape at the bottom underneath its eyes, and that is shaped like a gad, and a gad is the miner's tool that you can see next to it. This is the tool that the miners hold and hit into the rock. So it's named that because of the shape of its mouth, but also because of the way that it flies around. And this is because of its wandering nature in its flight, because gad can mean something like to move without a specific purpose. So let's look more closely at this movement from the gadfly. Biologists noted that there was an interesting parallel with fighter planes. Specifically, they filmed the gadfly in slow motion. And to summarize, horseflies or gadflies sometimes do something called the Immelmann turn, which you can see next to that picture. That is named after a German fighter pilot who, ironically, was not in fact able to do this full turn. So, the Immelmann turn is when you have your airplane, let's see, we shall use a phone, to fly up, and then you turn it over while you flip. And that is called an Immelmann turn. So the gadfly is not in fact actually called the gadfly but the horsefly, but it is named that because of the shape of its mouth and its unpredictable nature in flight. Extra fact, according to Plato, Socrates acted as an uncomfortable provocateur of the Athenian rulers, like the spur or the biting fly arousing a sluggish horse. According to Plato, Socrates was named the gadfly because of this behavior. In Plato's words, descent, like the gadfly, is easy to swat, but the cost to society of silencing individuals who are irritating can be quite high. If Plato is to be believed, Socrates used his nickname as a weapon during his trials. In the words of Socrates himself, "If you kill a man like me, you will injure yourselves more than you injure me, because my role is that of the gadfly. I am here to sting the people and whip them into a fury, all in the service of truth." Nonetheless, Socrates was, at the end of his life, sentenced to death. The gadfly had in fact annoyed its very last ruler. So let me see what we've missed in the chat. Rock hard just got a whole new meaning. The phone is in airplane mode, so no one will know that you used a phone for an airplane. Rubbish cans. That is such a good joke, I guess. It made me laugh, so I'm thinking that's a good joke. So yes, that GAD, that tool that mine is used, really old tool. It's been used for a super long time, and we still kind of have something like it, but now they're attached to machines, like to robots that hammer that in. What I missed in the chat was a load of nonsense. No, we had a really good airplane mode joke. That was pretty good. Also, isn't it ironic that the Immelmann turn is named after Immelmann, who was in fact not able to do a full Immelmann turn? Like, that seems like they're messing with you if they name a turn after you that you're not in fact able to do. Then we're going to go on to our second missed chat. This one is about apples. Do you know the saying "as American as apple pie"? You might have guessed it. Apple pie is in fact not actually American by origin. This might make more sense if you realize that most apples are not in fact native to North America. The very first recipe for apple pie that we know of comes from England and was written in 1381. The interesting thing about this recipe is that it does make an apple pie, but it does not make a crust. So, why do we make apple pies with a crust now? In the Middle Ages, people had this strange lack of plastic or tin containers to lug around their apple pie in. So, what did they do? They used some lard, which is some animal fat, flour and water just to keep the ingredients in the pie. Most people would then throw away the crust because you weren't actually supposed to eat this. It was only later that somebody came up with the win-win situation that we have now. You can carry the apples in a crust and eat the crust as well. So, as American as apple pie, it turns out, apple pie not actually originally American. The first one we know of comes from England, but they made a pie without a crust. Let me see. Apple pie is really good. Yes. Also, apples, they originate near Kazakhstan now, which is like Central Asia. And but by like the 1500s, we have apples all over Europe because we take the seeds with us. And we cultivate them all over the world. So, apple pie, not actually American. Dutch apple pie is really good. Apple juice, yes. Then we're going to go on to our animals of the week. This week we're going to be talking about the lemming and the ladybird. Sedarian says, fun fact, we did historical cooking with a few friends once. One of my friends, a history teacher, read the old recipe from the 1600s wrong. Instead of 1 tablespoon of lemon zested, he put in 10 full zested lemons. Yes. Oh, which would be really bad. Also, remember from our last stream that life did not give us lemons, but we humans in fact made lemons ourselves. It's just a hybrid between a super sour orange and I think it's a lime and a super sour orange together. We made lemons all by ourselves. Then on to our lemmings and ladybugs. First we're going to be talking about lemming suicide. Then the origin of lemmings and what they have to do with stormy weather. Then we're going to be talking about ladybug love and then ladybug zombies. First, lemming suicide. So, in 1958, Walt Disney produced The White Wilderness as the part of the studio's True Life Adventure series. Wild Wilderness featured a segment on lemmings detailing their strange compulsion to commit mass suicide. According to a 1983 investigation by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, this was in fact faked. The lemmings supposedly committing mass suicide by leaping into the ocean were actually thrown off a cliff by the Disney filmmakers. This epic lemming migration was staged using careful editing, tight camera work, and a dozen lemmings running on a snow-covered Lazy Susan style turntable. So we're going to watch a little bit of this wonderful White Wilderness, and after that I'm going to repeat it for in case you didn't really hear what they said. I have actually written it out, so I'll tell you in a bit. First we'll watch together The White Wilderness.
In this land of many mysteries, it's a strange fact that the largest legends seem to collect around the smallest creatures. One of these is a mousy little rodent called the lemming. Here's an actual living legend.
This is the living legend, the Little Lemon.
By rushing into the sea in droves. The story is one of the persistent tales of the Arctic.
Oh, hello, Chingmania.
Nature lore. It's a story both true and false, as we shall see in a moment.
There they go.
Ahead lies the Arctic shore, and beyond the sea.
Is there only one living legend?
Their frenzy takes them tumbling down the terrace.
Yeah, this is where Disney just threw them, pushed them down this cliff.
Seemingly indestructible lemmings.
Dominique, we're watching The White Wilderness. And this is not, in fact, actual lemming suicide. This is Disney producers pushing lemmings off a ledge.
This is the last chance to turn back.
The last chance to turn back.
Yet over they go, casting themselves bodily out into space.
I don't know if you can sue Disney for using your name in vain if they got away with drowning like a couple dozen lemmings.
All seem to survive the ordeal, for now they begin to swim. Not toward land, strangely, but away from shore, toward the far horizon. Others
Why did they do this, Changmania? Yeah.
They too plunge into the waves.
So
It's not given to man to understand all of
they
nature,
basically did this just
but
to
in their
make
mystic
content.
surprise, It would appear that the lemmings consider this body of water just another lake. And if it's a lake, then it must have a farther shore. And so they strike out boldly.
So yes, pretty sad.
But gradually strength wanes. Determination ebbs away. And soon the Arctic Sea is dotted with tiny bobbing bodies. And so is acted out the legend of mass suicide and destruction of a species it would seem to be. Except that nature, in her infinite wisdom, has spared a few. Back on the Arctic plain, there remains the small handful that did not make this fatal journey. And in time, new generations will take the place of those that have been lost. And yet, when the population cycle mounts to another peak, the lemming legend will be told again, and will come to this same amazing climax, a final rendezvous with destiny and with death.
A final rendezvous with destiny and with death. But what in fact did happen there? So The White Wilderness was filmed in Alberta, Canada. This is a landlocked province, and as you saw in the movie, they definitely had a great body, the Arctic Ocean there. Not in fact true. This is also not the lemming's natural habitat. There are about 20 lemming species that are found around the polar north, but not in Alberta. So, the Disney people went and bought lemmings from the Inuit children a couple of provinces away in Manitoba. And then they staged the whole sequence. In the lemming segment, the little rodents assemble for mass migration, scamper across the tundra, and ford a tiny stream, as the narrator explains that, a kind of compulsion seizes each tiny rodent, and carried along by this unreasoning hysteria, they fall into step and march that will take them to a strange destiny. That destiny is to jump into the ocean. As they approach the sea, which is in fact not a sea, the water that you see there, that is just a river, they just cropped it really tightly. They say they've become the victims of an obsession, a one-track thought on their mind. Move on, move on. This pack of lemmings reaches the final precipice. This is the last chance to turn back, he says. Yet over they go, casting themselves out bodily into space. And then you can see those lemmings flying into the water. Disney has to have gotten this idea of lemming suicide from somewhere. Disney likely confused the dispersal with migration. So lemming populations fluctuate a lot based on predators, food and climate. And under really good conditions, in a single year, the population of these lemmings can increase by a factor of 10. So after they've exhausted the local food supply, they then disperse. And this dispersion of lemmings has led to the belief... Oh, is it so loud, the raining? Whoa, wait. Okay, let me close this. I'll be back in like 2 seconds and then I shall tell you about lemming migration. Whoa. Is that less loud? It's still loud, right? It's a calming sound, yes. But I think this is slightly less loud. I'm hoping. Okay. It's really going for it. So what Disney took was this myth that lemmings would do mass suicide or just suddenly disappear with all of them. But they would just kind of disperse and or be killed off or starve off, all these things. But they do not in fact throw themselves over precipices. So, extra little fact. This one is about the way that snowy owls are in fact quite metal when it comes to lemmings. Given the opportunity, snowy owls will build their nests with heaped piles of lemming corpses, as you can see in that top picture right up there. And that is in fact a picture that was taken of in a time where there were where there was a super large population of lemmings. Oh, I'm at the other side, random fact. I'll give you that after the lemming fact. So lemmings are the primary food source for a lot of Arctic species. And because they fluctuate that much, when this picture was taken, there were so many lemmings that the snowy owls just went nuts with it. As you can see, they killed way more lemmings than they could possibly eat. And basically, they decided to build houses out of them. The owls were better fed, so they laid more eggs. They laid 14 eggs instead of the usual like 7 or 8. And then they had big, fat, healthy chicks who ate like kings. And that is how snowy owls are pretty metal when it comes to building their nests. Oh my goodness, this is a long rivalry again. Sedarian says almost as ancient as the righties versus the lefties. And there shall be building of corpses of the lefties. This is escalation. But also, I'm at the other side, a random fact. Sure. Let me see. Oh, this one is interesting. Did you know, when we're talking about owl babies, that for human babies, when a mother suffers organ damage while she's pregnant, the baby in the wound will send stem cells to repair the damaged organ. So, snowy owls do a lot for their chicks, even building them nests out of their corpses of their prey. But human fetuses will actually help save their mother by sending them stem cells. That is your extra fact. And then we're going to go on to the origin of the word lemming. So the word lemming comes from the older Norwegian lemende, which in turn comes from the Old Norse lomunder, which doesn't have a known origin. Lemmings first appeared in English language in 1607 in The History of Four-Footed Beastes by the English cleric Topsell, who lived from 1572 to 1625. Topsell was apparently awed by lemmings, which were sometimes seen in really large numbers. His description was that there are certain little four-footed beasties called lemmar or lemmus, which in tempestuous and rainy weather do seem to fall down from the clouds. So, it was once generally accepted that lemmings fell out of the sky during stormy weather, although experts disagreed on whether they spontaneously generated in these storm clouds or whether the wind simply blew them there. And seeing as how hard it is raining over here, we might just get ourselves a storm of lemmings. Misconceptions about these lemmings go back many centuries. In 1532, you have a geographer called Ziegler. He proposed the theory that the creatures fell out of the sky during stormy weather and then died suddenly when the grass grew in spring. This, however, was contradicted by natural historian Mr. Ole Worm, who accepted that lemmings could fall out of the sky, but claimed that they had been brought over by the wind rather than created by spontaneous generation. Worm is a really interesting scientist, and you can see him right next to me. He published dissections of the lemming, which showed that they were anatomically similar to most other rodents, and the work of Carl Linnaeus proved that they had the same origin. As a scientist, Worm straddled the line between modern and pre-modern as a scientist. For example, in a very modern empirical mode, Worm determined that the unicorn did in fact not exist, and he purported that the unicorn horns that they found were simply from the snout of a narwhal. But at the same time, he then wondered if the anti-poison properties associated with this unicorn horn still held true. And so he undertook experiments by poisoning his own pets, and then serving them ground narwhal horn. However, his poisoning must have been quite mild because all of his pets did in fact recover. And he also helps the scientific world by providing the very first detailed drawing of a bird of paradise, which you can see right there, proving that they did in fact have, despite much popular speculation of the opposite, feet, just like regular birds. So, lemming, it comes from the Old Norse lomunder, and for a long time people were entirely convinced that they fell from the sky during stormy weather. And then, let's see what I missed. Apple Juice says, let's do a bit about the crazy but popular theories of scientists throughout history. Oh, that's a lovely suggestion. Yes, good idea. I like that. If you have any suggestions that you would like to do, you can share them with me here in the chat, and you can also share them on the Discord underneath the caption suggestions, and then I will research that for our next stream. But don't you think that it's interesting that people thought that birds of paradise just kind of floated around, and they thought that they never landed and therefore didn't need feet, so didn't have them. And that is the dissection of the lemming. Then we're going to be talking about our next animal, this one about the ladybug. Oh, Chengmania says, reminds me about the duck-billed platypus. Once they discovered it, they didn't think it was real. Yes, this scientist really tried to pick it apart when he first got it. He was like, that's obviously a fake. But no, it's just Australia. So we're going to be talking about ladybug love. We're going to be talking about how promiscuous they are. So sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs, like syphilis, can ravage humans, but STDs in wild animal populations have gone largely unstudied. Now, a team of researchers have found a reoccurring epidemic of a sexually transmitted mite that occurs in wild population of ladybugs, suggesting that these STDs might play a large role in controlling wild populations, a larger role than we once thought. So we're going to be talking about the ABCs of ladybug STDs. Ladybugs are known to be among the most promiscuous of insects. Studies have found that STDs run rampant where they live in high densities. A sexually transmitted mite, for example, is suspected to be partially prevalent in the two-spotted ladybug population in Poland. The mite doesn't normally kill the insects, but it does sterilize the females. Scientists don't really understand how such a virulent infection could persist at high levels without wiping out the entire population, but they might have found an answer. So for the promiscuous ladybug, they found that the mating habits are as follows. The insects typically mated every 2 days in the mating season, each time with a new partner. This promiscuity allowed this mite to sweep through the population. Disease peaked with an infection rate racing from 20% all the way up to 80% of the population in only 2 weeks. Normally, if an infection is this nasty, it will just wipe out an entire population. But in this case, it seems like the ladybug and the mite are kind of in balance. A new generation of ladybugs was born just before the disease peaked. And this was a new pool of fertile females, which were then able to propagate this ladybug population. So, ladybug love, it might spread mites like wildfire, but they're still pretty cute. Up there you can see actually a fungus infecting a ladybug at the top and at the bottom. Those are, I think that is the 7-spotted ladybug. Yes, fungus. It is a mushroom fact just to start up with. Oh, and also, I'm pretty sure Nightbot can stop overreacting for Chengmania as lol. It's literally the ladybug. Are you familiar with the Japanese lady beetle? Oh, I am not. I'm going to look that up. Let me see. Why is this not working? There we go. We're going to be talking about ladybug zombies. So, there is a Braconic wasp that protects itself from predators while being cocooned by turning a ladybug host into its zombie bodyguard. So, next to me you can see the Braconid wasp, and what it does is it lays its eggs inside of a ladybug, which is just as horrific as it sounds, but it does in fact get worse. So what happens with these eggs once they hatch? Then the larva munches on its host's internal tissues before exiting through the abdomen, which is the nicest way that I can say that. In most cases, the partially paralyzed ladybird remains sitting on the parasite as it spins its cocoon underneath its belly. After this injection of the eggs into the ladybird, the wasp larva develops for 20 days within the host's abdomen. It then exits through the abdomen and spins a cocoon between its legs. What they have observed with these ladybugs is while they are partially paralyzed and guarding this cocoon, the ladybug will twitch at irregular intervals. The hypothesis that the scientists came up with was that this behavior is a result of the host manipulation by the parasite to convert the ladybird into kind of like a living bodyguard and literal host for the egg. Of the ladybirds that were converted into bodyguards, the researchers found that about 25% of them actually recover from this ordeal and survive. So, ladybug zombies. This is a Braconic wasp that lays its eggs inside the abdomen of the ladybug and is then forced to guard it with its twitching body. Just to be hardcore. And they're talking. Do we have Japanese beetles that look a lot like ladybugs in our garden in the Netherlands? I have not noticed there. Are those the yellow ones? Then yes, I have seen them. I definitely have seen them in our garden. So you might think that ladybug STDs and ladybug zombies are pretty harsh news for the ladybug, but they have it coming because they have brought this all on themselves. This is because ladybugs have been responsible for the dumping of millions of liters of wine. So, kind of deserve it. This is because of something called the ladybug taint in wine. When harvested with the grapes, ladybugs cause the wine to smell like cat urine and taste really bad. So, have you ever held a ladybug in your hand and then smelled your fingers afterwards? You have this really bad smell, and they emit this smell when they are crushed up with the grapes, and that can lead to something called the ladybug taint, where they have to throw away millions of euros worth of wine. The colors and the marking are very diverse of the Japanese one. Okay, because I've definitely seen the yellow one in our garden. So I'm not entirely sure if we've seen the Japanese one. Oh my goodness, I'm really warm, by the way. So what do you think? Do ladybugs have this coming to themselves because they make us throw away wine? Or are we being slightly too harsh on the very poor ladybug? It's said that this ladybug taint isn't something that happens that often anymore. But I think it's one animal, one ladybug in like 10 liters of wine will spoil 10 liters of wine. You have to throw the whole thing out. And it's worse in red wine. Because of the way that they process it. They keep the skins in the red wine, and that makes the chances of a ladybug being squished in there greater, and then they ruin our wine for us. They clean your garden, so you should be happy with them. That is also a fact. So yes, I guess we shall have to keep our ladybugs, because they do in fact eat the mites which eat my very pretty flowers. Then we're going to vote for our next animal of the week. Let me see, we have to go here. Today you can choose between the manta ray, the mongoose, or the mantis. So if you go to the chat and you click on the little triangle at the top, you can choose manta ray, mongoose, or mantis. Mantis taking an early lead with 2 votes there, and they eat lice. Yes, ladybugs really good. You can they are actually also used in vineyards as a natural pesticide, because they work really well, but you just have to really make sure that you get them all off your grapes before you make wine. Otherwise, they make it taste nasty. 3 votes for Mantis and 2 for Manta Ray. No love for our poor mongoose yet. Let's see. Oh, those are really pretty pictures that I found of that mantis, by the way. Oh, 1 vote for the mantis, getting a little bit of love. And we have a cat. A cat has come to visit. And I am being handed the Spin Doctor's book for it in a second. Hey, Loki. Hi, come here. Come here. Are you also hot? Yes. I think it's too hot to snuggle. Kung Fu Mongoose and the Cobra Killer. Hey, Jeroen. Nice to see you. Ooh, it's a tight race here. 3 mantis, 2 mongoose, and 2 manta ray. Yes. Oh, well, I have a very evil cat, but I can just go and lift him up just for now. Hello, cat. Come here. Oh, come here, my baby. Come say hi. You might be a very angry kitty. Hello, kitty. Hey, Loki. No, come here. Oh, come here. You don't want to snuggle? Hey, baby. Look at my evil cat. He's really evil. So very hairy. Hey. He is an evil, evil cat. Yes, and he's off and away. He had a tick underneath his chin and I pulled it out, so he's kind of mad at me now. But also, you can't leave that in there because they can carry diseases. Hairy catty plus, yep, that is definitely, I am sticky. I don't really know if I want to eat, have hairballs. We're still going strong. We're still going 2 manta ray, 2 mongoose, and 3 mantis. Looks like Mantis is winning this round for now. Best idea of the evening, yes. Let's snuggle the cat. Oh, I am getting stickier by the minute, by the way, which is less fun. It feels like I need a shower after this. Also, just to get all of the cat hairs off. Don't know if you can tell, but they're like on my arm. No AC, no. We have, I just closed the window because it was so loud with the rain. Oh, you really hoped Mongoose could have won, but it doesn't seem likely. Oh, but we can put Manta Ray and Mongoose back in for our next round. Yeah, but it's so loud if I open the window. I'm at the other side because it's still raining, and I think it's going to start actually like thunder lightning in a second. And it's going to be loud if I open that up. Which might not be a good thing. I think, apple juice, that AC is not really a thing yet in the Netherlands, but I'm thinking that it might become more of a thing. You think it's relaxing? No, but it's going to be like loud. And also, this window and I have a fight each time that I have to open it. So it'll take me like a hot second to do this. Oh, and I think this is it. I think this is the Mantis winning by an inch. We have a couple of seconds left. Because Northern Sweden has winter for 8 months and our houses are built to keep the heat in, not to let it out. Exactly, Dutch houses also made to keep the heat in, not to let the heat out. And we have a winner, Mantis, for the win. It must have been the pretty pictures. So next week, as our animal of the week, we are going to choose the mantis. And I can already tell you, mantises also pretty metal. You thought that the snowy owls were metal with their lemmings? Ain't got nothing on the mantis. We'll have to go over to Jeroen next time, just for the AC. I think you can see my hair getting stickier by the moment as well. Mantis is seriously hardcore. But you know who else is hardcore? Oh, what's the Ranja flavor? I have black currant. And I've already finished like most of my bottle. That is how hot it is today. We are going to go on to the next batch of facts also about hardcore devious dictators. You might see where I've gotten the inspiration for this. Really good book if you want to read it, Spin Doctors. Dictators in the 20th century have often used the same playbook to stay in power. According to Gurdjieff and Treisman, who wrote the book The Spin Dictators, this playbook consists of 4 tactics: violent repression, controlling the press, isolating the country, and mocking democracy. And today I'm going to share some of the most bizarre uses of these tactics. First, violent oppression. We're going to be talking about Francisco Nguema, I hope I said that right, who was a dictator from 1968 to 1979. Nguema strongly believed in 2 things. 1, that magic rules the world. And 2, that therefore science must be nonsense. So what did this mean for his policy? An example of the application of this belief can be found in his economic policy. His predecessor imported oil from the Soviet Union to make sure that the machines in their factories kept running. Nguema, however, knew better. Oil was expensive, and because, of course, machines run on magic, this oil served no function. Under his command, Equatorial Guinea stopped importing oil, and then obviously the machines also stopped working. What happened then took Nguema completely by surprise. The scientists were critical of his economic policy. They even dared to say that he was wrong. What nonsense! Luckily, Nguema knew what to do. He banned everything that he associated with science. So, what was on this list of banned things? 1, he closed all schools, which might have been fun for my students, but not a good idea. And 2, wearing glasses was now a crime. This was because he thought that, Loki, do you really need to play with that right now? My cat is playing with my hair clip there on the floor. So he also said that because everything sciencey was wrong, that wearing glasses is now a crime, and he declared the word intellectual to be defunct. This meant that you could not use this word in conversation or else. And can you still hear me and see me? Because Dominique seems to be having some issues. Oh, okay, so it is working for the rest. Good. No more glasses. You would have been a public hazard. Me too, before I got my eyes lasered, because I was blind as a bat. So, did Nguema's magic thinking and science sucks rules actually work? To his complete surprise, not all people liked these new rules. So, what to do? He had to send a message that everyone would remember. He did the following. His secret police rounded up all 150 scientists who were still critical. They were brought to the biggest football stadium in the country. And then he had his firing squad dress up like Santa Claus. And finally, all of the scientists were shot while the song "Those Were the Days" by Mary Hopkins was played over the stadium speakers. Well, Nguema had one thing right. No one would forget this day, all right? So, Francisco Nguema, he thought that magic ruled the world and therefore science was nonsense. When his machines stopped working because they did not in fact run on magic, but they did in fact run on oil, he shot the scientists who declared that he was in fact wrong. To make this memorable, he had his firing squad dress up as Santas. So that is another way to make it memorable, I guess. Then we're going to go on to our second devious dictator. This one is about controlling the press. Rafael Trujillo, who is from the Dominican Republic, he ruled from 1930 until 1961. From the moment he rose to power, Trujillo was focused on only one thing, and this was his image. One of the first edicts he issued was in the 30s, and this was renaming things in his honor. The capital city, which was called Santo Dominico, after Saint Dominic, was renamed Ciudad Trujillo, or City of Trujillo, because his status was obviously greater than that of just a simple saint. He also renamed the highest mountain in the land, Pico Duarte, or Peak of Duarte. This was, of course, you might have guessed it, renamed Pico Trujillo because the lowly freedom fighter Duarte could not compete with his greatness. During the Second World War, he chose the side of the Allies and opened up his country to refugees. Very noble, right? At home, people started to notice something strange, though. He started to wear white makeup and only let refugees in from white countries like Spain. So, was he a racist who wanted his country just to become more white? Most historians think so, but unfortunately we have a bit of a problem. Anyone who spread these rumors within the Dominican Republic was arrested and killed. You were only allowed to write that Trujillo let these refugees in because of his noble morals. Extra little fact. Trujillo carried quite a few nicknames during his career. He himself came up with a nickname El Jefe, or the boss. But this did not entirely catch on. So what nicknames did catch on? Chapitas, or bottle caps, was the most popular one. This because he wore so many medals on his chest that they lost all of their meaning. This nickname Chapitas bottle caps made him so angry that he banned the use of the word altogether. So controlling the press, Trujillo controlled the press by banning the word bottle caps because they made fun of his nickname. And let's see, Jeroen says it would be a great D&D setting, these worlds. Sounds weird. And also, doesn't it look like bottle caps on his shirt? I definitely think that Trujillo looks like he's wearing bottle caps. How? But you just ban the whole word bottle caps? Just in general? Just because people wouldn't call him El Jefe? Wowzers, Chengmania. Indeed. Wowzers, indeed. With that, we're going to go on to our last devious dictator and their tactics. This one, Chengmania says they were so money they probably jingled when he walked. Exactly. He could have teamed up with the Jingle Bells Santa Claus shooting squad of our last dictator. That might be our, binding factor here. So, our next fact is about isolating the country. And this one is from Saparmurat Niyazov from Turkmenistan, who was the ruler from 1990 until 2005. When Niyazov rose to power, he took the mantle of Turkmenbasi, or supreme leader of the Turkmeni people, very seriously. His policy was focused on turning Turkmenistan into the Kuwait of Central Asia. So what did he mean by that? Kuwait had such oil riches that the country could very quickly modernize and develop itself independent of other countries. Before Niyazov became the supreme leader, large oil fields had been discovered within Turkmenistan. So the same could possibly go for his own country. But what if you weren't working in the gas fields? How did you become wealthy enough to modernize? Niazov had a trick up his sleeve for these people. First, he gathered intel on the major sectors in Turkmeni economy. He quickly noticed that there were a lot of people producing melons, breeding horses, and weaving tapestries. This is where the second part of his plan comes into action. He organized 3 new national holidays. 1, the Day of the Melon. 2, the Day of the Horse. And 3, you might have guessed it, the Day of the Tapestry. With this, he tried to help people working in these sectors because everybody had to, for instance, eat melons on the Day of the Melon. So, a little extra fact. He also outlawed things that he associated that were bad with other countries. The list consisted of banned things, among others, beards, because beards were Russian and unhygienic, ballet, because ballet was French and effeminate, and smoking, because that was Spanish and unhealthy. And his courtiers later said that he didn't actually ban smoking because it was Spanish. It was just that he wanted to quit and people around him were smoking, so he decided just to ban smoking altogether. So Niazov, he decided that he was going to help the Turkmeni economy by making new national holidays and banning smoking because it was Spanish, or maybe because he wanted to stop for himself. Nicotine patches. That might have been the answer. No beard, I'm out, says I'm at the other side. Yes, I know. That's weird, right? But also, ban smoking altogether just because you want to stop smoking? Pretty weird move. Then we're going to go on to our new subject. Now we're going to be talking about mad mushrooms. We're going to be talking about aquatic mushrooms, true underwater mushroom, magic mushrooms, and mushroom technology. Time for a mustache instead. Yes, maybe time for a mustache. First, we're going to be talking about an aquatic mushroom. So, when Robert Coffin discovered the Picetherella aquatica, he wasn't actually looking for it. This professor had waded into the river during a picnic with his family. Coffin spotted a tiny pale mushroom growing out of the riverbed in the flowing water and realized that he was seeing something strange. Coffin convinced a pair of mycologists from Oregon to come and take a look. 5 years later, the team introduced Coffin's discovery to the world as a very new species. This underwater mushroom is the only species of true gilled mushroom that specifically grows underwater, where there are aquatic cup fungi. It looks like something you could buy and put on a pizza, but it is in fact a very special kind of mushroom. So the stipe, which is like the top, is covered in thin hair-like structures, and the spores that are released by the gills stay in gas bubbles underneath of those gills, and you can see those on the pictures next to me. You can see those air bubbles forming, and then these air bubbles with the spores in them float to the top, and then they burst open, and that is how the spores disperse. A recent study into these showed that the species only produces these spores when it is completely submerged under cold water. So, the aquatic mushroom, it is the very first mushroom that we know of that has gills and only produces spores underwater. And a little extra fact I'm going to give you is the word mushroom management. This is where employees aren't told about the ideas or general state of the company and are given work without knowing its purpose. It is called the mushroom management because the employees are kept in the dark and fed bullshit. Which I thought was just such a good little extra fact that you get an extra mushroom fact. But we're going to go on to our magic mushrooms. So, magic mushrooms might give their users trippy experiences by creating a hyper-connected brain. The active ingredient in the psychedelic drug called psilocybin seems to completely disrupt the normal connections within the regions of the brain. This is because it connects parts of the brain that normally don't interact together. Psilocybin, the ingredient, is best known for triggering vivid hallucinations. It can make colors seem oversaturated and dissolve the boundaries between different objects. But the drug also seems to have long-lasting effects. Many people have reported very spiritual experiences while taking the drug, and people have even suggested that taking it might alter a person's personality on a long-term basis, making them more open to new experiences and emotions. People who experimented with this active psilocybin report it is one of the most profound experiences they've had. And scientists have known that psilocybin binds to a receptor in our brain for serotonin for quite a while. And this might tell us why people find it such a euphoric experience. Serotonin is the brain chemical that plays a role in mood, appetite, and sleep. But exactly how it transforms the brain's pattern of communication isn't entirely clear. So what they did is they did a study into people taking this magic mushroom, and they did MRIs of the brains of 15 healthy volunteers once they had taken a placebo and after they had taken the hallucinogenic. The team then compared the brain activity of the individuals on and off the drug and created a map of the connection between the different brain regions. Psilocybin dramatically transformed the participants' brain organizations, where normally unconnected brain regions showed brain activity that was synchronized in time. So meaning that they made different parts of their brain actually communicate. And you can see this on the scans. The psilocybin might make us go into a state that is close to synesthesia, which is a sensory effect where one stimulus, such as a number, gets paired in the brain with another, such as a color or a sound. This is where people can taste sounds or hear colors. The findings could help scientists who are studying the drug as a potential treatment for depression. Past work has found that people tend to be happier even after using the drug only once, but scientists would need to get a much better picture of how this drug impacts the brain before using it to actually treat depression. So, magic mushrooms, they make our brain connect different regions that don't normally communicate, and that is why you can hear colors or taste sound. And it might be used in treatment for depression later on. And a lovely little extra fact, if you ever go into the woods and pick mushrooms, please do not, but if you are in France, pharmacists in France have been trained in mycology. So foragers will take their mushrooms they have gathered to their pharmacist where, free of charge, the mushrooms are then checked for toxicity. So, Sudarian Shadowmane says, zombies certainly seem to be a theme in these streams. What is that fax lady planning? It might be zombies, but I might check my mushrooms with my French pharmacist. Then we're going to go on to our next fact, which is mushroom technology. Mushrooms can create a light breeze, even when the air is really calm. And this is because they release water vapor, cooling the air and creating a convective current of air moving to carry the spores away from the parent. Mushrooms have to scatter their spores to make little mushrooms. We have very long assumed that they rely on a friendly breeze for these spores to spread. But a new study shows that mushrooms can create their own spore-casting wind. Fluid mechanic researchers videoed high-speed cameras, and they put it on a common oyster mushroom, and then they discovered that these spores floated off even when the air was entirely still. It turns out that before the spore dispersal, the mushrooms release water vapor. This vapor cools the air around the mushroom, which then drops down, and the warm air rushes back up, and this creates a convective dynamic and gets the air moving. Just this very faint fungal breeze was enough to carry the spores away from the parent. And another extra fact for mushroom technology. Did you know that scientists in the State University of New York are working on creating glow-in-the-dark trees? They are working on splicing bioluminescent genes from jellyfish and mushrooms into trees, which they could then breed for greater and greater brightness. The goal is eventually that these trees could replace our streetlights. So, mushroom technology, they make their own fungal breeze to blow away their spores, and they might be working on making trees as our bioluminescent streetlights. I was expecting a picture of Link with a mushroom on its shield. That is mushroom technology. Yes, I have done a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm still working on trying to get it streamed to my laptop. But the thing is, I have a laptop and it can't really take the amount of data that we need yet. But I do have for you a video of a mushroom generating its own spores. Don't not need sound for that. And what you can see here is a mushroom. That's the white cap that you see there. And around it you can see the spores floating up. And this air current is made entirely by the mushroom itself, by those water vapors cooling the air and the cold air dropping down and warm air rushing back in. And that is that form that you see right there. I will not talk about magic mushrooms in the chat. Yeah, let's not. Okay, then after this, I'm going to give you our story of the week, and our story of the week is going to be the Black Dinner. After the story of the week, we are going to play fact tennis. For fact tennis, you serve, so you suggest a subject for me to give you a fact about in the chat. I return by seeing if I know an interesting fact about that subject or adjacent to that subject. If I miss any shots, if I don't know a fact, then we will put them at the beginning of our next stream with our missed shots. So please put your subjects for fact tennis in the chat. And then we're going to start talking about our story of the week, the Black Dinner. Weird scientific beliefs. Oh, and supernova. Okay, cool. We're going to start with our story of the week. This one is about the Black Dinner. So, the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones is based on this famous piece of Scottish history. While it was not, in fact, a wedding feast, the Black Dinner is an infamous event from Scottish history. By the end of the meal, 2 members of one of Scotland's most powerful clans were dead. So it all starts with King James II. He was crowned and he lived from 1430 until 1460, following the assassination of his father, King James I. In 1437, the then 6-year-old James Stuart was crowned the King of Scotland. As having a 6-year-old on the throne ruling a country was not such a good idea, there was a regency put in place. Archibald Douglas, the 5th Earl of Douglas, was regent until he died in 1439. But then afterwards, 3 powerful lords, William Crichton, Sir Alexander Livingston, and Callender and James Douglas agreed to share power until James then came of age. But as you can imagine, having 3 men in the regent is kind of the recipe for infighting. So the rivalry between Douglas and Crichton. James Douglas was Earl of Avondale, while his relative William was the 6th Earl of Douglas. I know, confusing. The Douglas clan was one of the most powerful families in the Scottish Lowlands, and as a result, they often dealt with external but also internal rivalries. The fear of the clans gaining too much power led to the crown working to break up some of these most powerful clans. James Douglas, Crichton and Livingston made a plan to break the power of the Douglas clan in 1440. King James was only 10 years old at this time, so he did not actually have a lot of say in how his government was run. And hello, unseasoned cauliflower. Nice to see you. His regents also kept him in the dark about his plot against the Douglas clan. Then we go to our fateful dinner invite. So on November 24, 1440, the 16-year-old William Douglas and his brother David were invited to a feast at the Edinburgh Castle. The boy king welcomed his guests, oblivious to the ulterior motives that his advisors had. While they ate, a black boar's head was placed in front of William Douglas. This was an ancient symbol of death in Scotland, and the boar's head was a signal to the conspirators. The two boys were seized and dragged from the halls, while James II, King James, shouted in protest of the violation of his hospitality. This is because medieval codes of hospitality included the understanding that guests were protected from harm by their hosts. Serving a meal and offering a roof over someone's head inferred protection, and violating this unwritten code could have dire consequences. But in this case, the Douglas boys were taken to Castle Hill for a mock trial. They were presented false charges of illegal protests and condemned as traitors. Some accounts say that the boy king then pled for mercy, but the boys were then beheaded in the castle yard that very day. Shortly after this, the Douglas clan laid siege on Edinburgh Castle in retaliation. Crichton surrendered the castle to the king, and this ended the hostility. Crichton was then given the title Lord Crichton, and James Douglas was made the 7th Earl of Douglas. While the murders of the William Douglas and his brother were intended to break the power of the Clan Douglas, the family would only grow more powerful after this. When James II came to rule in his own right, it seems that he took a leaf out of this book. In 1452, history repeated itself. James invited William Douglas, the 8th Earl of Douglas, to the castle under safe conduct. The king then accused the Earl of conspiracy with MacDonald, and the king drew his dagger and stabbed the Earl to death 27 times. So the Black Dinner, this is a story of Scottish intrigue where the king's advisors plot to take down the Douglas clan family by murdering the two heads at dinner. Then let's go on to Fact Tennis. And let's welcome Unseasoned Cauliflower. Welcome, lovely to have you. We are going to play Fact Tennis, where you give me a subject and I see if I know facts about it off the top of my head. Let's see. First, a Fact Tennis about weird scientific beliefs. Sure. Let me just have quickly get one that we haven't had yet. So, did you know that? Did you know that it is in fact a myth that you can put a frog into a pot of water, and as long as you heat it up slowly, the frog will just boil to death himself? This is a weird belief that people have had throughout quite a lot of history, but it turns out that it's just a myth. Once the frog gets too hot, he's just gonna hop out. A fact in us about supernova. I do not know that much about supernova. So I might have to get back to that one. or it might end up as a missed shot. It's always at the other side and quite often misses shots. Fact 10 is about Labradors. Sure. Let's see. Did you know that specifically Labradors were bred to hunt, and that is why they can carry eggs in their mouth without breaking them, and that is supposed to be the true test of a good Labrador, is to see if the Labrador can hold an egg in its mouth without breaking it. But I don't know if that's such a good fact about Labradors. I might give you a fact about dogs. Just dogs in general. Did you know that? Dogs? Let me see if I have a good one that we haven't had yet. Because I think I've already told you the fact that the dogs that look really angry, the wolf dogs in movies, they CGI the tails because they're wagging so hard because they're so happy. But Labradors, you give them an egg to test if they're good boys and can hold them really gently. Fact 10 is about Scotland. Just general Scotland? Sure. Did you know that Scotland's national animal is in fact a unicorn? This is because in mythology, the unicorn is the lion's mortal enemy, and the English had chosen the lion as their national animal. So they still have a unicorn up on all of their shields, which I think is fantastic. Rubbish Cats, a fact 10 is about Midsummer or garlic. I don't really know that much about Midsummer. I can in fact give you a fact about garlic. Did you know that garlic actually has more use than just deterring animals from eating it? It also has an antibacterial and antifungal properties, and garlic was probably just the plant probably just made the garlic compound to keep bacteria from growing on it, to protect itself. And then turns out we humans really like that taste, so that's why we eat it. It's the same way that peppers have capsaicin in it, which makes them hot, also antibacterial, antifungal. Let me see. Did I miss any? Sounds almost as reasonable as dictates as we heard about. I think that is the last one. Oh, you dance around poles during midsummer. Yes, I think. Do I know anything about that pole? Like a maypole that you still have in England. You still have, and I'm guessing the whole of the UK, you still have May fairs where you dance around the pole with the lids. So, okay, our missed shots are going to be, I'm going to find you a better fact about the Labrador. I'm going to find you a fact about Midsommar, and I'm going to find you a fact about supernovas. Rubbish Cat says one of our songs is about how goofy frogs are, and another is about how priests' crows can't drive a car. What? That sounds interesting. Let's see. I'm definitely looking things up about Midsummer in Sweden because that sounds amazing. Then, after our wholesome facts, I'm going to end the stream and then we're going to try and raid another stream. So if you have any suggestions for me to raid, please put them in the chat. And I can also see who is online. I have Oh Brother online. If you have any other suggestions, then please put them in the chat. And then we're going to go to our very last wholesome fact and then the end of the stream. This weekend I'm going to be away, which means that we are going to do the stream on the Monday again. So our next stream is going to be next Monday at 8, and there we're going to be talking about weird scientific beliefs. We're going to be talking about Midsommar. I will give you a better Labrador fact, and we're going to be talking about supernovas. If you have any other suggestions for any subjects that you want, please put them in the Discord. Also, just go to the Discord to chat together if you want, or to share any random facts. Then next stream, we're also going to start our new community goal, which is going to be our next big fact quiz. Let's see if Dominique will remain our reigning champion. But then first, we're going to go on to our very last fact of the stream, and this one is our wholesome fact. So, did you know that babies can be overloaded with happiness? So have you ever seen a baby smiling and laughing and then suddenly turn away? This is because they are having a happiness overload. Basically, their brains cannot handle being so happy, and they cannot handle this experience. So their only remedy is to look away to prevent their little brain from overloading with cuteness. So happy babies, they will turn away from you when they just cannot contain their cuteness. So with that, that is the end of our stream. Thank you very much for joining. I will see you next week on Monday at 8. Please share any things that you want me to research in our Discord, or just come say hi. And then we're going to try to raid a different stream. Does anybody have any other suggestions in the chat? Otherwise, we are going to go raid Oh Brother, which says science and technology. Always seems good. Yes, so I think we're going to go... Oh, apple juice, hydrate. Just for the last bit. I'm finishing this bottle tonight, though. And opening up a window, because it is warm in here. Okay, we are going to go raid Oh Brother. Please tell him I sent you, and I will see you next week on Monday at 8. Bye, guys.